Hey guys, Ramblin Bob here again. Okay, so we've got a lot of questions about the EB3A and the AC2A and what's the difference and which one is right for you. So I thought I'd make a video trying to help people understand the difference between these systems to figure out, well, is this going to work for you or is this one? Or could both work for you? Who knows? I mean, you might like one for home and one for the office. Who knows? Okay, so let's go over the basics. So this is the EB3A by Bluetti, and this is the AC2A by Bluetti. They're about the same power station, except they have different features and different functions. So I want to show you the most obvious, which is the size. The EB3A is just a tad bit bigger and a tad bit wider, as you see, than the AC2A. So it's more of a compact box on it. So depending on if you have enough room to, you know, whatever your application is, you know, a certain amount of space might be limited to, you know, your application. Okay, so the other thing that's really noticeably different is the handles. So the handle is a hidden handle on the EB3A, so you can kind of like hide it and then you get a nice flat surface, where the AC2A is built in. I do like this a lot because it's much less clanky, and it's more built into the actual frame of the unit. So I personally like this better, but this isn't bad. Like I said, it's a little clanky though, a little noisy, but this one is all in one, so that way you don't have any noise. In case, you know, say you have to move that late at night, you know, that could, see how noisy that is? That could wake somebody up. It's not a big deal, but just, you know, just keep note of it. Okay, and then obviously the way you turn it on, so you hold this, if you watch this screen, this is a traditional Bluetti screen for the power stations, and you notice how it turned on. And then what they did is they updated the new ones to have this kind. See how it kind of went, so it's kind of cool. So it's the same exact design for the most part as far as where stuff is laid out, right? Except the way it turns on, I really like that, guys. Let's show it again just so you can see it here. I know it's not a big feature, but like I said, I want to show everything that's different. See how it kind of just pops on there? This one kind of has like a new space age feel to it. I don't know, I like the way it turns on. It's not a big difference, but I like that. Okay, so that's 2 pluses for this one, okay? The handle and the screen. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the, we're going to go right down the line, and we're going to go to the battery pack cell voltage. And what that is a configuration of this battery cells that's inside the machines to make a certain voltage, so that way you have a battery pack. So the EB3A is 22.4 volts in the battery cells. That's where they put them all together like these fingers, and they make one big battery pack like that runs and charges the entire thing. Now the AC2A has a 25.6 volt battery pack, so that's a little bit higher, and I think that's easier to step up the voltage. So anytime that you step up the voltage, the further the distance is between this and 120 and this at 120, whenever you can have a little bit less, it usually means a little bit easier on the battery cells, so you don't have to pump it up so hard and then make the inverter work so hard. Okay, and then you have the amp hours. So the amp hour is 12 amp hours in this one at that voltage, and then the AC2A is 8 amp hours. So obviously you have a 268 watt hours total machine, and you have only a 200 and I think it's 204. Yep, 204. Well, 204.8. Okay, as far as the watt hours in here. So you obviously have more watt hours in this one by approximately 64 watt hours. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but let's say your laptop takes 15 watts to run. Just say that means you can run this an extra 4 hours on your laptop than you could this one. Now that could make or break if you need this for camping or something. That 4 extra hours, that's a big deal, right? Okay, so the battery cells, they're both lithium iron phosphate batteries. So those are nice because they're much more safe than those lithium ion ones. You know, all the times you see the news stories about, you know, the batteries exploded and the batteries started on fire. Yeah, that's lithium ion. It's very, very fragile. If it ever were to get punctured, or if too much pressure were to go into the battery cells at one time, you could have a really bad outcome. This stuff, if you were to pop, which I don't recommend obviously, but if something were to happen to the battery cells on this one, it would emit very, very bad odor and chemicals, or actually, yeah, chemicals, but you wouldn't have the flame and fire. I coined a term a long time ago when we started this channel. Lithium ion creates a blowtorch from hell. And that's not a joke, guys. If you ever go and look at lithium ion fire, you will see it'll start out like this. Like, let's pretend this is the flame. It'll go like this and go pa, and it will not stop this flame until all the chemicals has been exhausted inside that battery. And I mean, you can hit it with whatever you want, cover it. It just doesn't care. It's unbelievably volatile. So I recommend, and we recommend here, lithium iron phosphate until they come out with something better, of course. This is what we like right now. Okay, so let's see, max battery expansions. You cannot put any battery expansions directly to each of these units. However, you can power dump from bigger systems in through the inputs here. So if you had like a bigger battery, you can go from the output of that battery, like the B230 or something like that, and then bring it in here, as long as it's in between 12 and 28 volts on this one. And this one, I believe, is, let me look it up real quick here. That's down the ways here. Yep, 12 to 28 volts. So they're the same input. So you could power dump from a bigger battery into one of these, as long as the battery has a connection that will allow it to go within those parameters. As far as a direct hookup, I'm not sure that it does that, because you only have the inputs. You don't actually have like an actual input for a battery on either one of these guys. See, like this is AC, and then this is AC. So you have AC inputs and DC, but you don't have an actual battery cable terminal connection on either one of these units. Okay, so you have, let's see here, let's go down. Charge cycles. Now this is where it changes a little bit, guys. So the charge cycles on the EB3A is 2,500 times to 80%. Now what 80% means, guys, is if you have $100, okay, and you charge or use, let's say you use that $100 2,500 times. Now that $100 is only worth 80% as far as the reserve capacity of these battery cells. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And now the new AC2A is actually 3,000 to 80%. So you get a longer run time as far as the longevity of the battery cells of this one over this one. Now that could be of two reasons. This has a bigger power inverter, and this has a smaller power inverter. So that also wreaks havoc on the battery cells. And this is 600 watt peak, and this is 1200 watt peak. That also wreaks havoc on the battery cells, because the more you use in a quote mistreat, if you would, not mistreat, but the more pressure you put on a battery cells, the quicker it burns out. Okay, so the charging method here is AC cable right here, and that's just a straight-in cable, very simple straight-in cable, guys. And then this is also a straight-in cable, but it's on the side of the unit. Notice that it's over on the side here. This has a built-in fuse right here, and this one has actually a circuit popper. Now the nice thing about that, guys, is if you pop this out, there's a little metal fuse in there with a little glass tube in there. So if you pop that, guess what, guys? You got to go get one of these, right? You got to go find one. But this one on the EB3A, it has a really nice circuit protector, which is the same circuit that's kind of in your house, where if you pop that circuit, you run downstairs, you click the little thing over, and if it's cool enough, it'll stay there, and then you continue going. So that could cause you some headaches if you're camping and you pop that little fuse in there. If you don't have a backup one, that could be a problem, right? I want to show you something cool too, guys. If as long as you get a thick enough cable. Now this is a very, very short cable, guys. This is like maybe, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet long, maybe even 2 feet. It's pretty short, maybe 24 inches probably. So this is really cool because you can use this, if I can move this out of the way here, and then if you plug this in, okay, as long as the cable can hold the rated power of the inputs, which this cable can definitely do on both of these. This is rated at 300 watts at 300 volts at 600 watts. But now notice this little cable here, right? The nice thing about it is if you don't want to carry the big cable that comes with it, this will turn on right away. See that? But it's already at 100%, so it's not going to really, put any energy in there. But the nice thing is, if you look at that, look at how short that run is. So that's a really cool thing if you want to keep your camping gear down to its absolute minimum. And then this one, now see, it's already full. So now it's using the UPS feature, which is the energy straight from the wall. This one, if we look at it, hopefully the other one's full so we can compare these, you'll see that the UPS feature with this system on uses approximately 7 watts. Hopefully you can see that okay. About 7 watts in standby mode. What that means is if you had it hooked to the grid, expect to burn about 7 watts every single hour, 24 hours a day. You see, it's 6.9, but we're going to average it at 7 because it's easier for your brain to do the math. So 7 times 24. Easy, right? So now if you put this way, that's the EB3A. Now if you hook this up to the other one here, now notice that this cable's all the way on the side, guys. So you'd have to kind of move some stuff around here. Put this closer, and then plug it in through the side. And that all depends, of course, of where your outlet is. Now notice, now this one's going to charge right away. So what we'll do is, while we're talking, we're going to let this one charge a little bit, and then we can see what the actual wattage of the, if it, you see it says grid, we're going to see if this has UPS or not. So we'll wait to, get to that part of the review in a second. Okay, so now we have both systems. I'm going to turn this one back on. Let me turn on the, let's turn on the DC so it stays on, or turn on the DC so it stays on. Okay, so the next thing is the max charging input of both systems. Now the max charging is approximately 270 watts and 270 watts of what I've seen. So same charging, guys. Okay, and then you have the pass-through charging. Now the pass-through charging is pretty cool because if you're using something and you can't wait to fill this and then take it somewhere, you could use it and charge something right away, which is called pass-through charging. So notice that it's almost full, so we're bringing in about 128 watts. So if you were to put something either here or even here on any output, you can literally charge and use that device while it's charging in the background. So if we were bringing in, say, 130 and we were using something that took 100 watts, okay, say we came out this outlet at 100 watts, the nice thing is it would pass through 100 watts to the device you're using, and the extra 33 about would go right into the battery cell. So that's known as pass-through charging. That's a really nice feature to have, guys, and I recommend that for every power station that you buy out there, because then you don't have to wait. This also has pass-through charging, which is the same thing. If you were using that 100-watt item and you were charging at 130, 100 watts would go to the item and the 30 watts would go into the battery cell. So obviously that would take a very long time to charge this. However, you do get to use an item or items right away, so you don't have to wait. So that's a big plus. Okay, so the AC outputs here, you get 2 ports, either one. So there's nothing different about that. They're both grounded. And then you have 120 volts output times 2. And these are, of course, pure sine wave inverters in there. And then you have 120 volts at 600 watts max, but this is only 300 watts max. So that could be a difference between whether you need that extra 300 watts or not. And that's another reason why the battery cells last longer. If you remember, we were talking about the pressure on the battery cells. Okay, so then we have AC ports, yep, 2 and 2, we got that already. The output is 300 watts on this one, and 600 watts surge on this one. And then this is 600 watts rated, and then 1200 watts surge. So it does have twice the battery, twice the AC output if needed, because some people need more power than other people here. Notice the screen, it kind of goes dim there. Both pure sine wave, as I said before. So that's nice. And pure sine wave, guys, is basically, so there's a pure sine wave that goes like this, okay? It's kind of like waves in a pool. It goes like that and goes like that in the ocean. And then a modified sine wave is what I don't care for much anymore. It basically does a very box shape, okay? Some people call it a box wave. Modified, so if it's going the polarity reverses, it kind of, does a hard cut like that. You see how quick it shoots up and down, where the pure sine wave has much more of a gentle flow, which is much better for medical equipment and very expensive stuff, guys, because remember, you don't have those jolts of power like that when the polarity switches like that, because AC is alternating current, this way, that way, this way, that way. It kind of goes like this, right? So that's a good thing. Pure sine wave, I always highly recommend. Okay, now as far as the UPS power supply, this one is tied to the grid, but it's not listed as a UPS device, okay? This one, however, has the UPS, and that comes in handy, of course, when you have that medical equipment, or if you want to use this as a standby to plug it in the wall and power something in case the grid goes out. This one does says DC hooked to grid, but grid means that the DC is this that we turned on, and then the grid icon in there is actually mean that we're charging from the grid. So if we were charging from the DC solar panel, you would have another icon pop up here letting you know where the power is coming from. But this one, guys, does not have a UPS feature. You know, here's the weird thing. It's not listed, but it seems to work. It's very strange. Let me see. I don't have anything. Let's see if I can pull something real quick, guys. Give me a second. No, okay, so I don't have anything. Guys, the laptop that I have right here has a battery that you have to literally open it up and take it out physically. You can't just pop the battery out, so I don't have anything here right away to be able to test that on this video. But this one, I do not believe it has UPS. I haven't seen it in the features, but it acts like UPS. That's the weird thing. So I don't know if they forgot to list it, or like if I plug in something and I pop this from the wall, it stays on. So that's what UPS stands for, is uninterruptible power supply. So that needs more testing, but as of right now, I cannot 100% confirm that this has a UPS device on it built in. Okay, so the charging voltage, obviously, I think we went over that already. It's 12 volts to 28 volts as far as the input, and 12 to 28 as far as the input. Now, guys, that is what's known as the open voltage circuit, or the open circuit voltage. VOC, a lot of people say it different ways, but it all means the same thing. So if you have a solar panel, let's say this little Bose headphone set is the solar panel, and this solar panel is coming out at 22 volts, just for argument's sake. That's VOC. Okay, so now being that this is a 22 volt solar panel, that obviously can work well with this and with this. What we highly recommend, guys, is the PB200 solar panel from Bluetti. That works perfect with both of these, and then you're also getting a good chunk of energy in, and it's a beautiful panel. It really is. We own 4 of them, guys. They're very nice. Okay, so the max input as far as the charging is 200 watts input and 200 watts input, which is actually down here. Okay, let's see here. Anderson power pole, there's none of those on this system. Let's see, the XT60 input. Now that's important because the EB3A has a barrel input, okay, and that's a 7909, which means 7.9 millimeters on the outer ring and 0.9 on the inner pin, okay? And this one, as far as the input, actually has what's known as an XT60 input. Now that one is more in the RC world, guys. If you're an RC or cars or planes or drones, you see this one a lot more in that, or maybe ham radio probably has a few of those. But if I had a choice between these two, I highly recommend the XT60, because if you look close, you notice how kind of beefy the ports are, and they're more separated. A pin is like this, where you have this in the middle, so you have a very close proximity between the positive and negative, which means it heats up quicker. Now on the XT60, notice you have a much further distance between these ports and a much beefier pin, which means that it doesn't heat up as quick. That's a plus, guys. That's a plus. Heat in electronics is always a downside. Okay, so we have yeah, we just did the XT60. Okay, XT60 output. Neither one of these units have an XT60 output. Okay, let's see. As far as the barrel output, now this is one thing that okay, so see, it's hooked to the grid now, and now notice that it's using 0.1 or 0.2 watts. Okay, now if this had UPS on it, obviously it would be using a lot more than that to charge through. So I wish I had something to test that on this video, guys, but I don't. A good way to test it is take a laptop, take the battery out, and if you let me, boy, I wish I had a laptop here, guys. I don't have one handy. I'm sorry. I should have had one for the video. I didn't know I was going to do that. But if you take a laptop and you take the battery out, 100% of the power comes from the AC adapter, and it converts it to DC, right? So if you had that plugged in and you rip this out of the wall and that laptop turned off, that means it doesn't have the UPS, which automatically switches from the grid to the battery so the laptop can stay on. So you could do that very simple test with a very simple laptop. But guys, I don't have a laptop. See, the laptops I have, guys, are like this. And these laptops actually have the batteries that are like built in. You have to open them up and unscrew them and then take the pins off. It's a big headache to get the batteries out of here, but I wish I had that, guys. Okay, so that'll be for another day. But notice that that's only at 0.2. So, and remember, when this one, we'll switch it back. Okay, this one, guys, was actually about what, 7 watts. So that way you can tell that it was actually using. See, it's shot up to 4.2, and it should probably mellow out about 7 watts. That means you have the UPS on the system. Not to mention, it actually has a button icon. It says UPS right there. So that way you can 100% confirm if you need a UPS device. The EB3A has that, and I'm not 100% sure on this one yet. So hopefully somebody will be able to answer that in the comments. As far as the cigarette ports, guys, you have an output on this one and you have an output on this one. They're both 120 watts max, and they're both rated output at 13 plus volts. So rated output means if you were running something and say the battery was going down, right, the voltage stays as regulated the same until this battery is 100% completed. This also has that. That's nice because if you undervolt a product, sometimes it burns out the board or underpowers the board. See, overpowering is just as dangerous as underpowering. So that's what's nice about the regulated output. So they both have that. That's a nice thing. Okay, so USB output, guys. This one has 2 USB A's, okay? And then this one has 2 USB A's, right? But this one has a USB 100 watt power delivery port. That's nice. And this one also has a 100 watt. This is the most normal port that a lot of people use right now. These are what we call grandpa ports, the USB A's. Now these are 3 amps a piece, so it's about 15 watts out. And these are only about 12 watts out. So you do get a higher output on the grandpa ports on the EB3A as opposed to the AC2A. So that's, you know, if you do need the extra power, that's another feature that this one has that this one kind of fell behind on. Even though it's newer, it has actually less output than the old one. This is 5 volts at 3 amps, and this is 5 volts at 2.4 amps, which that's a big difference, right? So about 15 watts out and about 12. It's not a big difference, but, you know, hey, 3 watts is 3 watts. You know, if you need that, it's 25% more watt out on the USB A's. And now this is a power delivery port, guys. So the neat thing about those is that's what we know it as USB-C port, but it's also a power delivery port, which means it can go above and beyond a traditional USB-C port. This can use anywhere between 5 volts out, 9, 12, 15, and all the way up to 20 volts out, guys. So you could charge, like I could charge my laptop through this little cord right here. Let me see if I have one of those real quick, guys. So if we put a laptop here and we have the DC on, just to give you an idea, if you were to plug this system into a laptop, see that light? It flashed and then it went off because this laptop's 100% full already. But I can run this tiny laptop on this power station through this little cord. Now what's really nice about that, having a power delivery port that's up to 20 volts, is that allows you to not have to carry the big and bulky power supply of this when you can just bring that if you're camping. So it's just one less piece to lose. And this is so tiny you can put it in your pocket. I mean, you can roll that up for nothing. And then the same thing on this side is you could put it in here, right? And then it would come out at 20 volts. Okay, this is depending on your laptop, of course. And then that would, oh, I turned it off, guys, sorry. Okay, I got turned on. Okay, see it flash? Now remember, this laptop battery is already 100% full, but that's really cool because if you put, like, say you were camping, guys, and you had this thing hooked to this laptop, do you know how long that would last? Holy crapzilla. This laptop only uses about 30 watts max, and that's when it's fully active. This is a very, very good processor in here, which is very, very special. It uses the least amount of power possible when you don't need it. So I can sit this in the background. It uses like about 7 watts of power. That's it. So if you were watching like a movie or something on there, you'd use maybe about 9 or 10 watts. And this is 268 watts, guys. So let's average this at 10 watts, right? Divided by 270, that'll be approximately 27 hours on paper, probably about 23 or 24 in reality. But that's an entire day that you can use this laptop on this. That's great if you need something to power this and the grid is out. And you still have to get your work done, because the nice thing about technology now, guys, is like we have fiber optic cable, so we don't have to use cable and things like that. So if the cable dropped and everything, and then you could also use your cell phone, which has Wi-Fi connection. So that way you can literally put your cell phone here, use the laptop, and this little guy charging and powering all that stuff for almost a whole day. That's pretty cool in case of emergency, that to have options like that, guys. That's really cool. We like both of these machines. We really do. I like this one a little bit more. However, this one has better features with it. Wireless charging pad. Now, guys, if you look, well, I suppose we don't need this anymore. If you look at the top of the, this is a really good idea, guys. If you look at the top of the EB3A, notice it says wireless charging output of 15 watts. That's a very important thing, because if you do have a cell phone, this one doesn't take wireless charging, and you pop that up there, you can charge it without having to bring any cables along. Also awesome for camping, right? If you don't have one, I can go right here into this, and the speed charges it through the power delivery port. It puts in exactly what it needs. But that's nice. Now this one, the AC2A, does not have this feature, guys. I was hoping it was hidden inside here, but it doesn't. Like, it's perfect. It would fit, but it does not have wireless charging capabilities. And now that could be a very, very big decision as far as what people need or want if they really, really enjoy this wireless charging. Some people hate to carry cables. I'm one of those. But at the same time, wireless has its downsides too. So this is only probably about 50% efficient. However, it's really simple to, come home from camping or wherever and sit in the office, and you just go like this and you walk away. Boom, it's charging. So you don't have to look for your cable, carry your cable, none of that stuff. So that's a very big option for some folks. Okay, so you also have the weight. Now, the EB3A comes in at an enormous 10 pounds. I say enormous because the AC2A only comes in at 8 pounds. This on the market is the smallest, lightest power station that we've ever seen by a major company. I think we had found one other one that actually has a lighter weight, and it's 7.7 pounds, and that was this guy. This is the TIMEUSB, and it's actually 7.7 pounds, so it's actually lighter. But as far as the weight, guys, this, I literally had cheeseburgers weigh more than this thing. I mean, you can literally hold this by a couple fingers. It's absolutely nothing. You can do that too here, but it's 10 pounds, and you'll notice that 25% weight increase when you pick them up. But all right, so the next side is the size now. So you have 10 inches by 7 inches by 7 inches on this one. And on this one, notice that it's very close, guys, very close. So as far as the width, you're about a ½ an inch less than that, as you see, just a tad, maybe possibly 3/4 of an inch wider. And then as far as deeper, you have about a 1-inch difference as far as the depth. You can see how skinny that is. I'm using a GoPro, guys, so it does have like a little bubble vision, but you can definitely see this space right here that it has less depth, okay? And the girth, it really makes a difference. It doesn't seem like it, but that little tiny amount, look at the difference between, here, let me see if I get it back far enough. See that? It really does make a difference if you had a lack of space in your camping equipment or your camping gear and you want to carry this along or something on vacation. Okay, so then you have the temperatures of the battery cells here, guys. Is your operating temp is all the way to -4, from -4 all the way up to 104. Now, if you were in an environment less than that or more than that, I feel bad for you. So, because that's either really cold or really hot. I don't like really cold or really hot. But this, on a traditional normal day, like we don't get too many sub-freezing days here in the States. I'm in central USA, and we don't get too many -4s. You know, if it happens, the whole neighborhood's talking about it because that's really cold. And as far as the other way, the 104, you don't get many days like that that are 104 or higher, 105 and stuff like that. That's really hot, guys. And if it's that hot, stay inside, go swim and do something, get out of that heat. Okay, so you have your charging temp. Now this is where the difference comes in. You can use it, either one of these, to -4 degrees. That's a nice thing. But when you go to charge them, guys, you do not want to charge a system under 32 degrees, freezing. So the reason for that is the battery cells do not like cold temperature when you force energy into them. They'll allow energy to flow out, but they don't allow energy to flow in so well. It's too much strain and pressure on the batteries. So people will do, like, if here's a pro tip, if you will. If you are camping, guys, put this somewhere where it can warm up, a small box or something like that. A cooler is a really good idea in the wintertime because the temperature inside a cooler will obviously stay warmer. So you're using a cooler the reverse way. Warmer than what it is outside. So I'll give you a prime example. Just my average van, okay, if it's 32 degrees outside, it's usually about 42 degrees inside the van because you don't have the wind chill inside there, and you know, all the stuff that makes reality as far as the temperature. So if you put these in a very small cooler, as long as you're not using them, guys, just for storage, if you put them in a cooler wrapped in a small blanket, that will protect them from going down too low, so then when you need it, it's operable, and you don't want to run it in the cooler, of course, or a styrofoam box. But a cooler is really nice. If you can get a Coleman cooler or something like that, where this fits right in there, and you know, it's good because the cooler can take some bumps, you know, when you slide it around your vehicle or your camping site or whatever, and then you pop this out. They do make little like travel companion bags for these little guys. Or you could get a book bag or so, you know, just something that's can hold these. But I recommend the cooler because it stays warmer, and then also it's more protection. But now remember, going the other way, guys, you don't want to store this in a cooler on a hot day because the cooler will actually be hotter, role reversal, than it is outside. So if it's 100 degrees outside, it could possibly be 110 to 120 inside that cooler. See, just because they call it a cooler doesn't mean it can't help you on other situations. Like we use coolers at job sites. We paint them black, and then we put our lunch in there in the summertime in a cooler and leave it in the sun. And what happens is the sun actually heats up the cooler like it was a little baby heater and keeps your food warm, you know, for an hour or two or something like that while you're working, so you can kind of nibble on it and come back to it. That's a pretty neat little trick there. But a cooler is not always a cooler. You got to think outside the box and how you can use items or devices for other things rather than the intended purposes. Okay. Then you have the storage temperature. The storage temperature, obviously, as we talked about, 32 degrees. You want to keep it that way you can charge it. But if you kept it in that cooler idea, that would keep it in a 32 degree temperature day. It would keep it possibly 40 or 50 degrees, possibly in that cooler, and that way you have a better chance if it drops below 32 to be able to utilize these guys. And then 113 is storage temperature is on the far end on Fahrenheit. 113, guys, if you're past that, like I said, I really feel bad for you. That's a horrible situation to be in. If it's that crazy hot, guys, and you have a power station, here's a cool tip. Put it in the basement. If you put it in the basement of your house, it's usually 10 to 30 degrees lower than the rest of your house, obviously than the attic, because that's where the heat is going, is up, and then the sun is beating down on the roof. So you can store your stuff in the basement, as long as it's a cool, dry area and off the ground. You do not want to put batteries on the concrete. A lot of people don't know that. Okay, so as far as Bluetooth, guys, so both of these have apps. Let me turn this bad boy on here. Both of these have apps. And this one, being a newer technology, has a few more options than this one did. Okay, let me turn this on here. It takes a second. It's an old phone. We use it not as a phone, guys. We use it as a tablet for this intended purposes, or drones, or RC cars, or things like that. As you can see, how long it takes to turn on here. At least this technology is faster than this one. But okay, so here we're on here. We're gonna go to. Oh my goodness, give it a second, guys. 1950s technology here. Okay, I'm usually not a phone guy, but I do use these for the apps now. And of course I use these for my drones. You turn it that way and you can have the picture of the drone of what it's seeing when it's way out there. Okay, so we're gonna go to Bluetooth here, and we're gonna go to, okay, so here, see, you have the AC2A and the EB3A, so all you have to do is close all those, and then you go to the Bluetti app, and then I'll show you this one first, because this one actually has less options than this one does, because this is a newer technology. So the neat thing with the app is on both of these guys is you can use it online, right, to log in and give all your information and all that stuff, or Bluetti is awesome for this, guys. They have what's known as an offline mode. Now, this is fantastic. If you're a private individual and you value your privacy of your apps and everything, you click this and look at that. I'm offline, guys. I'm only connecting through Bluetooth and not through the Wi-Fi. That is a wonderful feature. I hope all companies end up doing this long term. So remember I said we're going to take the EB3A first. So we're going to click that bad boy, and it's going to, hopefully you can see this, it's going to jump up to this one, and notice that the DC, remember I have the DC on here. Right, so if I turn that off, you'll see that that turned off on the app, and vice versa. If you turn it on the app here, see, turn on the DC output, it has a little confirmation there, and notice that the DC output turned on. And now you can turn on the AC over here, and you'll see a little confirmation. And then what that is, in case you bump this button, right, guys? So say you want to turn this off, right? It asks you, because if you're using something, like say you're using a CPAP machine or something very vital to someone's health, and you accidentally bump this button, on some apps, that'll actually just turn off without confirming that. Because imagine if that CPAP machine were to turn off because you know, you bump the phone, or you set it down like this. And I have big clunky fingers, guys. I always hit these buttons on accident, because if your fingers have kind of a large girth to them, you sometimes hit one or two buttons that you don't intend to hit. So that is a very, very powerful feature, is something so simple as to have that confirmation. Yes, I do want to turn that off. Yes, I didn't make a mistake. And now that turned off, as you see. And then you can turn off the AC here and turn that off, as you see. So they both have standbys without the AC on or the DC on. See, so the DC and the AC is no longer on. They do have an intermediate standby. So that way, see, if you hit this, okay. So notice that this one you actually have to hold down the button to turn it off like this, and then the whole system shuts down. Or it'll go on shut down if you leave it sit. Now this one, notice that it's still on, and the same thing, you hold down this button, and then it'll actually say off, and then shut it down. So they shut off the same way, just the buttons are in different configuration. Now this one has little buttons here with little lights that light up, but if you look real close, hopefully you can see this, guys. See this? It actually has the buttons with the little pictures. I like this, guys, and the reason I like this is because you can see all the way across the room, hey, the DC's on, because I can read it. It says DC. That's a cool thing, guys. I like that. I forgot to mention that as far as the buttons. Oh, real quick before I go back to the app, the buttons too. These are an updated new version of buttons, guys. Let me turn on here. I'll turn on everything in here. Okay, and then I'll turn on, because we got lots of power, guys. These are both 100%, and this one we're not on the app yet, so that way hopefully they'll stay on a little bit longer. That's a very cool thing, is the new buttons. Very cool. The port is obviously a lot more flush. This one sticks out further on the DC. On the cigarette, we call them cigarette lighters, guys. I know that's a taboo word nowadays, but you know, some people call these car ports. Guys, this will be a cigarette lighter till the day I pass away. That's a cigarette lighter. That's a cigarette lighter. But okay, so back to the app here, guys. So now that you have, oh, we turned it off here. Oh, I didn't. Okay, so you got to turn that on and turn that on. There you go. Okay, so you have that on the EB3A. Now it obviously will show you, you know, what's on. Now notice that, oh, see, look at this here. Oh, guys, that's right. So when you turn off a system, guys, this is very important. Notice that the app doesn't realize that the system is back on. When you turn on a system, you have to turn it on before you connect to the app. Otherwise, it will not re-register that it's turned back on. So notice it's on now, guys. That's why I couldn't turn them on from this way. So that's a big, on both of these. Now, that's a safety feature, okay? So now notice that that's it. You just have basic input. You got Bluetooth with the signal, and then you have your input, output of the grid and the solar panels, and you have the output of the DC and the output of the AC. And then here you have the buttons. So very, very simplistic first page, right? So the options in this one, you have your model number up here, and then you have your standard. That's your charging mode, which you have your standard, turbo, or silent. So turbo is when you're in a hurry or an emergency, guys. I don't recommend you using turbo all the time. Remember the strain on the battery cells, guys. Not a good idea. But if you need it, turn it on and get that puppy, you know, charged up so you can split. I get that. Now, silent is the best option if you have the time. It is the most gentle on the battery cells, guys. Remember, the slower you charge a battery, the longer it lasts, because you're not forcing it. Imagine driving your car, guys, right? You want to get to A to B, say you're going to California to Florida or whatever, and you put the, you know, the gas pedal all the way down, your engine's not going to like that, right? If you go just a little bit, it'll obviously take you forever to get there, but your car will like you much better going 10 miles an hour than 100. That's a huge difference when it comes to battery cells. So that's your charging mode, guys. I leave it on standard all the time because that's the nice in-between. And also with the silent, it's very, very quiet. It doesn't turn on the fans, and when you don't have that much power going in a system, it doesn't have to utilize the cooling system because you're not heating it up past what it thinks is too hot, and then the fans kick on, and that also uses energy to do those fans, so you do conserve power that way as well. Now you have powerlifting mode. Now, guys, this is a controversial subject for me. I personally am not a fan of powerlifting mode. No disrespect to Bluetti, it would be a great thing for purely resistant loads in an emergency, which is the only time that I would ever utilize powerlifting mode. They both have this, but I'm not a fan of this because some people don't understand what it does. So, okay, in a nutshell, what happens is it puts the amps up but drops the voltage. And remember, electronics do not like this. So if I were to plug in something that's 1200 watts, you would literally see the voltage go down to about 80 volts. Sometimes I've seen 79. Now remember, guys, these are both 120 volt output. So when you drop down that far, that's very, very, very bad for motors and electronics, unless it's a purely resisted load, i.e. like a heater that doesn't have a fan in it, like a filament heater, or like a light bulb. A condensate light bulb is a purely resistant load, and that way you can use that in an emergency. Now, I don't think you're going to be using a 1200 watt light bulb in emergency, but maybe you would, who knows. Okay, so powerlifting, guys, like I said, it does what it's designed to do, but some people do not understand it and understand that you could start a fire or wreck your equipment if you use that on the wrong device. So guys, stay away from it until you literally understand fully what powerlifting does. Great feature, bad feature, / good, bad, both at the same time. Now your eco mode is really cool. So say you have this hooked to a portable, or this one, they both have it, a portable refrigerator, right? And you want to keep all your drinks cool and your food or whatever you have in there, or your bait. Some people use a portable refrigerator for bait when you go fishing. Great idea, guys. The worms like cold environment, right? And the minnows and everything, they stay longer, so you can fish, you know, have more fun and fish longer time. Now, if you have the eco off like we do, that means that these systems will never shut off until the battery dies. The reason that is powerful is, and now go back to that portable refrigerator, right? If you have that fridge and you have the econo mode set on, eco or economy mode, people say it in different ways. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe it's 4. Let me see. Let's turn it on real quick and see. I believe it's 4 options here. Oh yeah, so here, so you have eco shutdown 1 to 4 hours. Now what happens is after 1 hour, if it doesn't detect any energy, it shuts off your device, right? Now what happens to your bait, your food, and your soda, or your beer? God forbid your beer gets warm. That's horrible. I've heard horror stories about warm beer, guys. So I'm not a drinker, but guys, I've heard horror stories. You don't want warm beer. So if you had that on and you forgot that it was on, and you came back from hiking, fishing, swimming, whatever you do, bike riding, and you found out that all your food overheated and spoiled. Meat does not like heat, guys, unless you're cooking it. So, hey, it rhymed. Meat doesn't like heat. Okay, unless you're eating it. So, yeah, meat doesn't like heat unless you're eating. Okay, so there you go. There's the song of the day. So that is a very, very powerful feature. If you misuse that, you will really, really be upset if you come back and find all your food or your beer or your soda or whatever, or your bait overheated and spoiled. So that, I always leave that off, guys. Now, where that comes in handy is if you are doing something and you don't need that, then you turn that on, and that would save power on both of these units. So like the powerlifting, it has a very good feature and a very bad feature depending on how you use that. So be aware of that. Now, the one thing that this also has, and I didn't want to jump ahead here. I wish I had something to hold on, guys. Let me put something here. Let me put, this is my trusty dusty laptop mat here. I work on this mat. These are really good if you're working with electronics, guys. Really good mat to have. And if I put it there, notice that the phone won't fall down anymore, guys. So that'll be less headaches that we have to deal with here. So this has a button right here where I can literally put, let's see, medium. I don't know why Bluetti has a medium and a high. That never made sense to me. You ever go to Starbucks and they have the weird names for the was it small, and a big is like a venti or something? Guys, just let's do small, medium, and large. You know what I mean? We've used it for what, 100 million years now, guys. Let's stick with that. That's so much easier than, you know, my wife orders these crazy drinks at Starbucks, and you know, she's like, you want a hot chocolate? I'm not a fan of the coffee. I'm not a coffee guy, but I love hot chocolate, guys. One of my 2 favorite drinks is Dr. Pepper and hot chocolate. For the rest of my life, those are going to be my favorite drinks. So except when I'm old, I'll just put the hot chocolate in a sippy cup. That way I won't spill it on myself when I'm 100 years old. Okay, so because it's hot, it'll burn. This should have low and high, or low and medium and high. The weird names that they use is medium and high, but there's no low. Guys, you can't have a high without a low. You know what I'm saying? It's just a weird, but that, so medium is actually low and high is actually high. And then there's also, and you can literally go like this and see how it went to high, and a pushable button through the app. Here's SOS, guys. Sorry if you have any kind of a flashing with the, you know, the whole epilepsy thing and seizures and whatnot. So I'll just put it a little bit off to the side just so you can kind of see. And then you also have the off button, which that's my favorite. So this one has a light, this one does not. Now here's the weird thing, guys. A lot of people really dislike lights on a power station. I am the opposite, 100 million, thousand, billion, zillion %. This light on there could save your butt, and I can prove it in just a couple situations. Either one of these is fine to hold in one hand and walk down to the pier. But what if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you want to go catfishing, right? Or, you know, 11 o'clock at night. You know, whatever the catfish are active, you go down there, right? And you're walking through the dark. Now, you could use the light on your cell phone to light up the path as you're walking down to the pier or the river, right? Or the lake or the boat, or whatever you're doing, whatever you're going. Or walking out to your garage, something as simple as that. You can easily go like this, right? And now you don't have to carry your phone with. Now, 99% of the kids out there I know, they have a phone. This is like a pacifier to a lot of people. They don't leave home without it, or like a security blanket. They do not leave home without their phone. I'm an old school guy. You want to call me at home. That's just how I am. I'm an old school guy that way. But what this would do is light up the situation that you're walking, so you see that branch on the ground, the vine that's hanging down. It's going to dang near decapitate your head, because you know the branch. You guys ever walk down a path at night and that branch whacks you across the face? Oh, that's a bad day, guys. You can't help but to laugh. It reminds me of a Laurel Hardy skit, you know, kind of thing, a Three Stooges. When you see that happen to somebody, you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible and funny at the same time. I don't know what it is about us, guys. We're getting to be a little bit more brazen as far as our community. Maybe because we were raised that way with Laurel and Hardy and Three Stooges and Tom and Jerry. And if you remember that bird and the Wile E. Coyote and the guy who's constantly hitting him with hammers, so we kind of got desensitized to bugs. However, we still run over and help you back up. But you know, getting whacked in the head with a branch while you're walking down a path in the middle of it, or there's maybe a hole or a puddle, this would light up that situation, and you just carry it like this and walk down. So that is one instance. Now the other instance, check this out, guys. My wife has a very expensive cell phone. I do not. If we had a flat tire one day and she put her $1,000 phone, right, like this, next to the car, in the cold, the snow, the dirt, the grime, everything, right? The wind, the weather, the elements. Or if I put this out there, turn this on, right? That lights up the tire while I'm able to change the lug in the tire, and then we can go about our way. So I'd much rather put a $200 power station out there as a form of light than my wife's $1,000 phone. These phones, guys, I don't know what it is about phones. What's crazy is, like, this little dot right here that you can barely see can cost, you know, 5 to 10 times as much as a box like this. And like I said, being an older fella, that's for me, that's backwards, guys. But you can obviously do a lot more with this, so I get it. But you know, like if you buy a cheeseburger, you want the bigger cheeseburger, costs more. So I look at these as cheeseburgers, you know. Okay, so that's basically it, guys, as far as the options on the EB3A. There's nothing much in there. It's a very simplistic, very, very easy to learn system. It's all straightforward. There's no real hidden buttons anywhere. It's see, you can turn it off right there, very quick. So we're going to shut the entire system down. Now, both of the inverters are off, guys. We use 1% to show you that demo, just to give you an idea of the runtime. And then also, see this little red button here? Right there, guys? That little red button is a main power off system button. So if you were to hit that, and then see it says, are you sure? And then it'll reset if you're not sure. So now the entire system just shut down. So the nice thing about that is, say you have this in the other side of the room, you're watching TV, it's chilly, and you don't want to get out of your blanket or your Snuggie or whatever you're wrapped in there for your movie, and you go, you know what, I'll just turn off that app, and boom, now this is entirely shut off, depending on what you were using that for. Like say you were getting, this is a real cool thing too, is say you want to use that in the morning, guys. Remember, you have to turn this on, otherwise it will connect the first time. So you cannot turn it on from the app. That's a big thing, guys. So remember that. Okay, so let's turn this back off here. And now we're going to jump over here to this bad boy. This is the AC2A now. So we'll hop over here in the AC2A. Once again, guys, we're offline. The really cool thing is you can go online and log in if and when you have a firmware update, guys. Now, if you do a firmware update on either one of these systems, make sure that the battery is more than 50% before you try to do a firmware update, because this is a very, very dangerous bad thing that could happen. If you're in the middle of a firmware update and you cut the power of these, or the battery dies, guess what happens to your box? It could 100% become inoperable, as in a pile of junk. In the industry, we coined a term called brick. Video games coined this back in the PSP and the Game Boy era. If the Game Gear and TurboGrafx and things like that. But if you make this system die, it kills the firmware. The firmware is the operating system of this, like the BIOS in a computer. It's the main brain of the system. And if you alter that or not finish it or delete something by accident, which you can't do, but doing a firmware update, it overwrites the other firmware. That's where the problem comes in. And if it's not done fully updating and overwriting the firmware, it bricks the system where you can't even turn them on. And you'd have to send this back to Bluetti, and they'd have to do a hard reset if possible. Sometimes it bricks a device permanently. So guys, always make sure you have at least, I recommend 100% power. I'm nervous when it comes to firmware, guys, but at least 50%, because that's enough time to easily get done any firmware on any system out there. So now this bad boy is on here, and we have, notice it's the exact same, right? The exact same layout, right? You have your solar panels, you have your grid, here's your Bluetooth and your signals, so if you walk away, you know you're getting too far from the system. This is your battery pack. I don't know if I said that on the other one. This is your battery pack cell, 98%, right? And notice, remember, this is much lower. This is only a 205 approximately watt-hour power station, so this number will drop faster because there's less power in there. Then you have what you're using, right? This is your DC out and your AC out. So let's turn the DC out on just by one button. Look at that, boom, right? And there you go. So now the cool thing is with this one, notice that you have the DC and the AC, but you have an extra thing down here. See this? Battery pack, guys. So it looks for battery pack number 1. Now notice that this is all the model for the battery pack. So this is the battery pack that's inside this system, right? Now the nice thing about that, guys, is this goes much more in depth. It's got the serial number, the model number, the alarms, the faults, the protection status, right? The software version. So you can in real time see all the bits and data that you could not see on this model. That's where the newer technology and the newer programs come in. That's a good thing, guys. That's a real good thing. And then you can copy paste this and send this to Bluetti if you have any questions or problems. So here's your alarms, no data. Here's your faults, no data. This is your power status, no data. So the neat thing with that is you have a lot more data, if you will, if you need it, if something arises. So that's a part on here. See, it says discharging and the BMS status. So that way it lets you know much more information about this battery cells as opposed to the EB3A. So even though this has more features, this has better electronical features as far as the programs and built in, because it's a newer power station, guys. So now if you go to the next thing, which is that little cog up here, notice you have your serial number of your system here, your charging mode. Once again, you have standard, turbo, and silent. If you remember what I said, the turbo is great for when you need it right now. Emergency. Let's get this charged and let's get out of here, right? Good. Standard is the best as far as the in the middle. And then silent is the best for the longevity of the battery cell. So I highly recommend silent if you don't need it in a quick time. Plus, remember, it's also, hence the name silent. It's very quiet when it charges. So I recommend silent, guys, if you don't need the power. And this is only 200 watt hours. Guys, if you put 50 watts in there, it would take 4 hours. If you put 100 watts in there, it would take 2 hours. That's okay. And if you put it on turbo, you could charge it about an hour and something. That's not that much of a difference. If this was like, 8 or 10 or 16 or 20,000 watt hours, obviously that would be a huge difference. But when you're dealing with a small power station like this, guys, there's not much time savings as far as 1 hour to 2 hour if you're not in a hurry, right? So here you have your powerlifting, guys. We talked about that already. I am not a fan of powerlifting except in the case of an emergency. Powerlifting and turbocharging, guys. Now notice that this is set to eco. Wait, I'm sorry. That was the standard. Okay, I jumped ahead. So standard charging, which I always keep on standard. And then your powerlifting is always off, guys. Now here's a really cool thing that this power station has that this one does not. The eco mode, which is why I jumped ahead here. Notice that you have 2 buttons, right? You have eco mode for the AC, right? These ones. And you also have the eco mode for the DC. Now guys, this is flippin' fantastic. Notice that that's way more in depth than this one. It's either on or off this many hours, right? This one you can literally have just the DC on if you use that portable refrigerator or something like that, and you turn the AC off, and what that does is save your power on your AC inverter. This is your power hog over here. DC inverter is usually much more efficient than the AC. So look at here, you can take your AC shutdown in 4 hours, so you got 1 to 4 hours on your AC. But more in depth than that, and this is where this is fantastic, is look at the power settings, guys. You can put it between a certain power, I don't know what it is, I think it's 1, let's test it here. Let's do 1 watt, okay, so it says 10 to 30 watts, so I leave mine on 10. So you can literally have this set up to where if it goes under that 30 watts and you have it set for 30, it'll shut this down. If you're running a certain device and it's full or whatever, then you're charging a laptop and it's charging at 50 watts. As soon as it drops down to a certain watts, then it would turn it off. So remember, the idle power of some devices will still be higher than that amount. So you can preset it anywhere between 10 and 30 watts. That is a fantastic feature on this model, where this model doesn't have it. Now, even further, remember, you can do this on the DC. Holy crapzilla, that's awesome, guys, because like I said, you might have that 1 to 4 hour time frame, but you might have that portable refrigerator hooked up to this, or a freezer, or both. Some are dual zone. So like if we took this out now and we hit enter, let's put number 1 here, it says enter within 5 to 10 watts. So you can once again put it in between 5 to 10 watts in case you have something that just happens to use 6 watts, right? Then you can put it at 6 watts when it goes under 6 watts, or 7 watts, or vice versa. So that's really a very cool thing that they implemented on this system that they didn't have for this system. Huge upgrade, monster upgrade for this one. Okay, and then you have the auto sleep. Now this is the system that is a standby, guys. Sleep is not turning a system off, it's putting it on like a standby, hence a sleep mode. On your computer you have a power on and a sleep mode, or I think they call it hibernate on some systems, and that's basic where it shuts down after 30 seconds. Okay, so the auto sleep, let's let it go. I'll yap and ramble here for 30 seconds, which is easy for me. So we're gonna wait 30 seconds. Now that that's on, you'll see that this will go back into hibernate mode. I don't know if you have the DC on for this or the DC off, so we'll turn it off, and now we're starting to 30 seconds over just to make sure. And while we're waiting for that one, notice you also have advanced settings. You didn't have that on this model, right? So you have much more options in here, and it's very simple. It's the grid self-adoption. So basically, guys, if you have a grid that's really not stable, not good, you could adopt to the grid, and that way, if it has bad energy, it helps it. It kind of cleans up the energy. That's a really cool thing. See how it went on standby here? So the whole screen went on. So now we'll go back here and we'll go to auto sleep never. And now what that does, which this didn't have, guys, is notice that screen never goes away. So we're going to wait another 30 seconds, which will be very easy for me to ramble through, guys. I've out-rambled batteries. You guys seen the last reviews. Okay. Had a little issue with the with the battery again, guys. The cord fell out again. Technology. Okay. So as we were saying, with the standby, the screen will never go dark now. Notice that'll be on all the time. Now that's really good if you were doing something like this. I'm explaining and kind of reviewing these two systems, and notice that this one doesn't have that option. So after 30 seconds or so on this system, this screen goes down, and this one stays on all the time. So if you're running your tests and everything for a video like this, you wouldn't have to keep doing this. I mean, it's good exercise, I guess, but this is better. Okay, so we'll turn the auto sleep back on to 30 seconds, and then you'll see that when we go back out of here, you'll see that the screen will go on the auto sleep there after 30 seconds. So as we ramble a little bit more, and then I'll show you a couple extra features like I was telling you that this might have and this one doesn't, as far as handles and whatnot and things like that. But we'll wait about 30 seconds here. I wish I had that Jeopardy song, guys. All right, so we don't need the app anymore. So while I'm waiting, let's see, I'll turn this whole phone off because we don't need this bad boy anymore. Okay, it's a really good idea, guys. Oh, see, there we rambled long enough. So notice that this one is doing what this one does now, is after a certain amount of time, it sits in the back. But remember, this didn't have that option to stay on, right? See, there it goes. So that's a really nice thing if you need that feature. Some people would find that feature very useless. This is a very good idea, guys, if you want to have a an app to run a power station, and you're just kind of a little leery, like I am a lot, about, you know, your phone has a lot of private information on there, phone numbers, credit card, all kinds of crazy stuff. You can get a phone like this, and what you could do is you could take out the SIM card. Let me show you real quick. I know this is off subject here, but I think this will really help a lot of people here. That way you don't have to put your main phone on a system, and, you know, all your valuable information be just that, you know, accessible to a company or whatever. So usually most phones will have a little button like this, and you push this little thing, see a little stick, and then see that kind of popped up there? It's very hard to see there. But when you pull that out, notice that this has a SD card in it. It's a 512 gig SD card, but this is where the SIM card would go, guys. Now, you cannot make a phone call without a SIM card, so that means that this phone is what's known as a dummy. So if you have, like, say you go shopping and you see the, oh, I gotta put it back in here now. Let me, give me a second here. There we go. Okay, boy, those slots are so tiny. Like, say you go to a store, they have, let's say 20 registers lined up, right? So basically what it is out of those 20, there's one here. See, warning, a custom OS. Oh, then it turned off. So basically what it's saying is there's no SIM card in there. Oops. So it's letting you know, hey, if you want to do this, you know, let me know here. Let's see here. Let's see, barcode, power on key. So you want to, I'll do that later. So all you do is you reset a phone, and then it becomes a dummy machine. So you have one intelligent machine, and then the rest are just kind of clones. Yep, see, there it reset itself. So basically now it's going to set itself up as a not a phone, but a tablet, because you could still use these things as a tablet. You don't have to have it as a phone, which is really cool. See, oh, I just got to do it again. Okay, so I got to reset it, guys. So when you use that as a resetting thing, okay, so here, let's do it in real time here. It's upside down here. So you got to do, let's see, if you want to download a custom OS, it can install the applications. Okay, press up in the down key. All right, so then it'll reset here. Let me see here. Cancels reset phone. Okay, I should do a review just on this stuff here. Let's see, volume. Oh, this, you know what? I'm upside down. That's up. Okay, so let's get it started here, and then we'll hit this. Or do I have it upside down? Maybe I have it upside down. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, I'm silly. I'm silly like that. Okay, it's downloading. I put it in upside down, guys, to the thing, so I was holding down the button. All right. All right, I'll let that reset, guys. Holy cow, I should do a whole nother review with that. It's downloading the thing from the network. Okay, because I have it on the Wi-Fi. Okay, back to what we were saying with the systems now. That was a real-time headache, guys. So I gotta do that over. Okay, so you can use that to run these things without having to go on the network. But now it's connected to my local Wi-Fi. It's downloading the update for the phone. So I'm gonna let it go. I don't want to interrupt that, as we were saying. So on this one you have very, very big airflow. This one you have very, very tiny airflow. So it's a little easier for stuff to go inside this one, dust and debris. This is the output now, but it's, you know, a bigger hole so more stuff can get inside there. But this has an option that the EB3A does not have. EB3A here, AC2A here. This has a grounding screw, guys. So if you use this sometimes at a job site or something like that, and under the rules and regulations of the job site, sometimes they'll say, well, you can't use this for safety unless you have it grounded. That way, it, you know, a better chance of not starting a fire or a problem. So this actually has a grounding screw on it. Now, I don't need it, I don't use it, but it's a wonderful thing to have there, because any option that you have there, you might use down the road. So that's a really cool upgrade for this system as opposed to this one. This one does not have a grounding screw, and this one does. Okay, and then I think that's about it. Rubber feet, they all have their little doohickeys. I don't know what these are called. I think they're RQ codes or QR. I don't know. My wife told me once what the heck those are called. But you like scan it and it goes right to the thing. So that helps you. Yep. So everything other than that is pretty much done with these two systems. Well, I hope that this video, guys, that you found value in it, because we love and very much enjoy solar power. It is a hobby that will not go away anytime soon for me. I am hooked like candy, a kid in a candy store. And hopefully these quote-unquote explanations of how to use them and what they have will help you in your choice of, you know, is this one right for you? Is this one right for you? Or is neither right for you? We don't mind if you buy one of these or not. We want you to be happy and stay here as a subscriber family so we can all learn this technology together. And that brings me to another point. If you're not a subscriber yet and you keep coming back to these videos, I think we passed 150,000 views for this channel. Holy crapzilla, we had no idea. We started this as a mistake, this channel, and it's grown into a Frankenstein monster. So thank you. I want to thank you all the subscribers out there. If you're not a subscriber, get up there and hit that button. Do one of those Donkey Kong hammer smashes on it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you could be a part of the subscriber family, and we can all talk and learn about this technology together. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. It helps that YouTube show other people, hey, the guy rambles a lot, but he's got good information in there. If you just, you know, kind of sit down with a Dr. Pepper and be patient, you'll get the information you need. We don't do commercial videos where it's just boom, 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 and then there's the answer. We try to explain the answer. I could say 2 + 2 is 4, and there you go. But if we sit down and explain why 2 + 2 = 4, you have, you know, 2 pieces plus 2 pieces, so you have 4 pieces that equals 4. I think that's the best way to learn, because not only are you just getting the answer, but you're understanding how you got the answer. I think that's a big problem in our society today, because with the calculator shows you what the answer is, right? But it's not explaining to you how it got that answer. And I think that's the lack of knowledge that we have in our society. But that's a whole different subject and a whole different video. All right, guys, the EB3A by Bluetti, love it. The AC2A by Bluetti, love it. I love both of these. I use them both. I would buy both. Hopefully this video found some knowledge and some good information for you. All right, guys, ramble on, be safe, and we'll definitely see you here on Ramblin Bob Reviews. Bye, guys.